the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. It's time to talk about the stock up 49ers. And the 49ers had a tough victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And depending on where you go to get your information, go to get your content, you could see that this was a impactful win, a huge win. You could see this was a terrible win. It's just all over the spectrum when it comes to how people are feeling after going into this game. But what we can't deny is there were some really great performances by several San Francisco 49er players. Several guys stepped up and really made plays, especially down the stretch when you know you have to have them. When the moment is the biggest stars want the balls in their hand. And the good news is the 49ers had plenty of guys who were willing to step up and make plays when they had to. Was it a clean game? Absolutely not. Were there some absolutely frustrating moments in this football game? Yes. The good news is the 49ers were able to overcome. They were able to win the moment came and they had to make a play. They were able to get it done. It's not always going to be good performances, and truly we haven't seen a great performance for the 49ers all season. We've seen moments, we've seen spurts, and I think we had an idea that with Christian McCaffrey coming back, we were going to get to see a lot more of that. We were going to get to see a lot of the San Francisco 49ers playing really well for a long time. Now, McCaffrey came in, he played well. 49ers, though, really didn't get that boost in the red zone and on third down that I think that everyone was expecting. So that alone was a little bit of a letdown. But when it came down to it and the game is tied and you've got 41 seconds left and the ball needs to get down the field so Jake Moody, who is a whole other story, can kick a field goal and win it, the 49ers executed. Brock Purdy was able to make the plays when he needed to get it done. And Brock Purdy had a very good game. Brock Purdy was able to get the ball to his playmakers, allow them to create, and they did a really good job at creating. So in this football game, even though it wasn't perfect, and you only won 23-20 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I think everyone was expecting to be a bigger victory, you still had key performances by several players. So we're going to go through that. We're going to talk about those key performers, how they stepped up, what that means for the future. And these are just stock up 49ers. And there's a lot of guys to talk about who had really good football games. Hope you guys will all stay and watch. It's going to be a lot of fun. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on an audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. And if you're going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. The largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball to NHL, UFC, and MMA. Head to Bet Online today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. And I brought up Brock Purdy, and that's exactly where I want to start when talking about the San Francisco 49ers, because Brock Purdy's first drive, you could tell it wasn't all there. In fact, there's probably a few drives in this football game where it felt he was airmailing the football a little bit, not exactly on target. You could tell there's a little bit of footwork issues there as he's starting to elevate the football a little bit. George Kittle bailed him out with a great catch over the middle of the field, jumping up, tapping it to himself on a big third down conversion that the 49ers ended up capitalizing on with a touchdown. So the 49ers definitely had some miscues from Brock Purdy early. But the good thing is Brock Purdy snapped right into the guy that we know that he can be, that elite performer. When the moment means the most, he can step up and make plays. And it wasn't his legs this time, but it was firmly on his arm. And it needed to be. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers made a concerted effort to stop the 49ers run game, and they did a really good job. Minus Christian McCaffrey having some early carries and a couple in the second half that were pretty good as well, the 49ers really struggled to establish a running game. Now, a lot of that had to go with the direction that Todd Bowles took his defense, the aggressive style that they were playing. They were definitely coming after the 49ers. The good thing is Brock Purdy was phenomenal. Brock Purdy took advantage, going 19 of 22 against blitzes. They blitzed over 60% of the time, and Purdy was able to take advantage of it. So 49ers definitely did a good job, and Brock Purdy is a big reason why. You just look at his stats. He was 25 of 36 for 353 yards at 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. And how about that? Was that not a sneaky 350 yards? Now, when you think about some of the clutch throws he made, it makes a lot of sense. You hit Ricky Pearsall over the middle for the big touchdown. That's a nice yak gain. You hit George Kittle on the sideline. He makes Levante David miss. He gets up the field to start the second half. That's just a simple little roll. Boom, George Kittle up the field, and he changes and flips the entire field to the other side. Yak yards again. Jawan Jennings making catches, getting yak yards. Deebo Samuel, yak yards. It was back to 49ers football when it came to the yak attack, and the yak bros were getting it done. So Brock Purdy was doing a good job, but I got to mention that throw that he made to Christian McCaffrey. He's got Goldson coming right down the middle at him, and he has to throw the football before Christian McCaffrey is even moving upfield. So McCaffrey's running an out and up. He runs the out portion of it, and before he can even turn to go upfield, Brock Purdy has to release the ball, and he puts enough air under it that Christian can run underneath it, but he also puts it with the perfect pacing and perfect timing to where it hits Christian McCaffrey right in the hands, and before a safety can get there. Absolutely fantastic throw. The knowing of where that guy's coming, understanding you're about to take a big hit, but then the confidence and anticipation to throw to Christian McCaffrey where he's going to be is just phenomenal. The trust between Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, and we're talking about it in a great manner, but he's got to know where the safety is. He's got to know he has enough time. He's got to trust Christian McCaffrey's going to win that route, and he did trust him, and he did win. And then what a huge throw from Brock Purdy. Now, one thing that I brought up was there was no interceptions. And, of course, in my Wow That's Bold predictions, I predicted again Brock Purdy would have no turnovers. And the reason I said that is there's certain games that just seem like they're going to work out for Brock not turning over the football. But I knew he was going to be diligent in that process, and he was. He did a really good job taking care of the football. And the San Francisco 49ers are now 16-0 when Brock Purdy doesn't turn over the football. That's impressive. So if you want to win, Brock has to take care of the football. And think about the things they overcame in this game. Bad special teams play, a special teams turnover. They were able to overcome that. Red zone, not exactly able to get it done there. 1 of 3. They still struggled. That didn't get fixed. You see these mistakes, and these should normally determine that you're going to lose the football game. You lose the turnover battle, you lose red zone effectiveness, you're probably not going to win the football game. But not really, because Brock Purdy took care of the football. They were able to overcome when things came down to it. He also was able to distribute the ball all around. 5 catches for 5 receivers, 5 ball catchers had over 50 yards receiving. It was absolutely fantastic what they were doing, and Brock Purdy was getting the ball around. And let's just talk about these stats real quick. Jawan Jennings, 7 catches on 11 targets for 93 yards, a 13.3 yard average, including, let's give Jawan Jennings a lot of props for what he did in this football game. He's definitely continues to be stock up as well. Making that catch, getting extra yards to get Jake Moody a 44-yard field goal attempt instead of what could have been. It could have been 50, and who knows if that ball goes through. So Jawan Jennings getting it done, 11 targets, playing X for the first time, doing a very good job of creating separation, having big catches. 3rd and Jawan was back, and boy, was it nice to have him back out there. The attitude, the aggressiveness, all on display for Jawan Jennings. So he had 93 yards. Ricky Pearsall had 4 catches for 73 and a touchdown. Christian McCaffrey, 6 for 68. That's impressive. 6 on 7 targets. Deebo Samuel had 5 catches for 62 yards, and George Kittle had 3 for 57. Each one of them over double-digit average on their catch, and it was just a phenomenal opportunity for this team, and they made good plays when they needed to, and Brock Purdy was able to distribute the ball to those guys. So I got huge stock up for Brock Purdy. You'll probably hear some people a little contrary to that, And there were a little bit of first half struggles for Brock, but I thought that when he needed to make plays, he did, and he sizzled. And we got to give credit to Brock Purdy for getting the ball in his playmakers' hands. And they did a really good job in this game. Yards after the catch were back, and it was nice to see. But let's talk about one of those guys who has stocked up for sure, and it's got to be Ricky Pearsall. The 4 catches for 73 yards is impressive, but how about the touchdown? I absolutely love it. Over the middle of the field, makes the catch, and then he outruns Antoine Winfield to the pylon. Gives him a little stutter step, gets a little bit of extra space as he angles to the pylon, and then he gets the ball out there. Make sure that there's no way that ball can be knocked away, but reaches out, gets to the end zone, and gets a touchdown. And this is Ricky Pearsall's first touchdown of the season. What a phenomenal game for Pearsall. And the reason I say phenomenal, and I thought he played well last time against Dallas Cowboys, I thought he just upticked huge in this game, was think about the moments in which Kyle Shanahan went to him. You're on the last drive of the game and he runs an out pattern, catches the ball, gets out of bounds. Then you have one timeout so you can go over the middle of the field. And what does he do? He trusts Ricky Pearsall to be one-on-one coverage and make the catch. And he does it and gets into field goal range. Just phenomenal job by the 49ers. I think that Ricky Pearsall is stepping right in what they thought he was going to be. And I think a lot of people are getting impressed with who Ricky Pearsall is. Now, those of us who saw him at training camp are not really that surprised. This is the player that we saw at training camp, the way he carried himself, the way he ran his routes, the way he competed, play in and play out. And it wasn't a big sample size, but it was easy to see how it translated from what you saw in film at Florida to what you got to see in practice and training camp. And I think that Pearsall's going out there and proving it right now. And this is why the 49ers weren't active in the wide receiver market during the trade. They feel comfortable with Jawan Jennings playing X and Ricky Pearsall going out there and playing any of the 3 positions they need him to play. So huge stock up for Pearsall. And think about this. He had so many clutch catches down the stretch, and he's showing such a steady improvement. He went from a 58 grade in week 7 against the Cowboys to a 69.4 grade against the Bucs. I'm sorry, a 58 grade was in his debut, not against the Cowboys. But you're just seeing a steady uptick in what he's doing for this football team. Huge stock up for Pearsall. And think about that. That's a young first-round pick. A lot of people wondering, hey, why did you take Ricky Pearsall at 31? And, that was a surprise for me as well. I thought he was a second-round talent. But when you look at the guys who were taken right after him, the 49ers didn't feel like they could wait to get Ricky Pearsall in the second round. And I'm glad they didn't, because guess who they got in the second round? Renardo freaking Green. And I know we're going to be talking about him in a moment. 49ers rookies making plays, and now Ricky Pearsall getting in that mix. As we talk about the 49ers maybe having the best draft class they've had under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, Ricky Pearsall is cementing it. You needed to hit on the first-round pick, and it looks like they've hit on the first-round pick, Pearsall. And what a tremendous story, just to think that just over 70 days ago, he was shot through the chest, and now he's shot out of a cannon and into the end zone for a touchdown. Tremendous stuff. One of his rookie counterparts that I want to talk about as stock up is Dominic Pooney. And I don't think Dominic Pooney gets enough conversation because we've kind of just established how good he is, and now we're just expecting him to be well. But the consistency that he's playing with right now, as he leads the team week in and week out, it feels like, as one of the top PFF performers, but also one of the top performers you see on film, he just gets better and better. So Dominic Pooney earned a 83.4 overall mark when it came to PFF. That's really good. He was the number 1 offensive player for the 49ers. He had a 70.2 pass blocking grade. That is a little bit lower because he did give up 2 pressures, but still, the 49ers threw the ball a lot. You had 36 passes from Brock Purdy, and yet, you only give up 2 pressures. It's still a good job. Dominic Pooney yet to give up a sack in his young career, but we're through 10 weeks now, 9 games, and he still hasn't given up a sack. Very impressive from a young rookie. I love what I'm seeing there. But we knew he was going to be really good when it came to pass protection. That's something he did very well all throughout his time in college, including his senior season in Kansas. But then what you saw at the Senior Bowl, the lateral quickness, the anchor, it's definitely been on display for him. But here's the part that's getting better and better. How about a 85.9 run blocking grade, the second highest in the game, only beat by Ricky Pearsall, who had an 86.8 run blocking grade. That's right. Ricky Pearsall is blocking. You go watch some of the film, and I'm going to be breaking down everything over on Patreon. So if you like, 11, the all 22 film, you want to watch breakdowns, it's all available over on Patreon. Every game, every play, go check it out. Lots of people over there joining in and checking out the breakdown. So go ahead and check that out on Patreon. And the link is in the description. So you just click on that and it'll take you right over there. You can get signed up. But Pearsall, 86.8, did a very good job. So you're talking about two rookies being your highest graded run blockers. Dominic Pooney, who's been doing it, but now doing it at a higher level when it comes to run blocking, and Ricky Pearsall. And he's got to, because one of the effects of having Brandon Ayuk out of the game is what you're getting now from Juwan Jennings. So Juwan Jennings is now playing X. This is the first time he's played X in his career. And with that being said, he's opposite of the tight end now. So your Y or your tight end is lined up on one side of the field, and X is opposite. They don't normally line up on the same side unless you're going to have a move tight end situation, another receiver on the ball, but they're usually opposite. And so usually you run to the tight end side, and so your X receiver is not as involved in the blocking. So with that being said, Juwan, one of his number one characteristics is his blocking. So that has to be picked up by somebody else. And guess whose job it was a lot of the time was Ricky Pearsall. And Pearsall did a good job. You go and you watch a little bit of social media. You go watch some of the film. I'll be breaking it down too. But you could see there's a play where he cracks on Levante David and ends up putting Levante David on the ground while blocking on a run play. Very significant for Ricky Pearsall. So Dominic Pooney continues to impress. He stabilized the right side of the offensive line. He has given good help to Jake Brendel and Colt McKivitz. And the 49ers feel confident with what they have at guard with Pooney, stock up, Pearsall. Two young guys getting it done. Now, what about the old guard? How about a guy like Trent Williams? Well, it's actually stock up. And you say, how does Trent Williams have stock up? Well, with the play that he's had this season, there needed to be a time where he started to gel. Last week, a couple weeks ago against Dallas, really started picking it up. Well, guess what? It continued. So he's finally gotten through his training camp phase, and now we're starting to see Trent Williams get better and better and better, and hopefully that rounds him into form as we go down the stretch with some tough games coming up, Seattle, Green Bay, and then Buffalo. But Trent Williams had an 80.6 offensive grade. That's his best since week 5 when he had a 83.8 grade. His 79.3 run blocking grade also marked a 4-game high. So you're seeing him get a little bit more comfortable. And I do think missing training camp really hurt Trent Williams, but now we're starting to see Trent go back to being Trent consistently. So if you have Dominic Pooney on the right side and Trent Williams on the left side, you got to feel like you're getting a little bit better. Now, Trent Williams did allow 3 pressures, so it's not all perfect. It's not all good, but we're starting to see some things round into form, and we're going to need guys like Pooney and Trent Williams to lead the way when it comes to run blocking, because the 49ers have to continue to run the ball well. You can't allow teams to do what Tampa Bay did and make the 49ers one-dimensional. Luckily, Brock Purdy and the 49ers playmakers were able to get it done and make big plays, but that's not a recipe for consistent success. We need a more balanced offense. 250 yards passing, 150 yards on the ground. That didn't happen in this game. So it's okay from game to game. Maybe you rely more on a running game in one because it's really hitting. You get over 200 yards, which we've seen the 49ers do. And then another situation is going to be on Brock and the playmakers to go get it done. Matchups and scheme just don't work out for you, and you got to go execute. They did that, but they're going to need the offensive line to step up and help them produce a more consistent running game. So Trent Williams, though, trending on the way up. So it's not stock up for his career, but it's stock up for the season, and that's good news for the 49ers. Let's talk about defense a little bit. And how about Renardo Green? Renardo Green continues to be one of the bright spots in the 49ers defense, period, let alone the fact that he's a rookie. And it was crazy when he came out in the draft process, when the 49ers selected him, there was a lot of conversation. They should have went offensive line. Of course, I had watched him play so much in college, being a Florida State fan, and it's not going well for my team this year. But Renardo Green was a big-time player for Florida State. I watched him lock up Malik Neighbors and others and play so good. So I had him ranked in the top 40. I had him ranked at 36 overall in the draft, and that might seem a little high, but now we're starting to see it from Renardo Green. He's doing the things that we thought that he could do, and he's playing so well. Now, he did leave the game in the second half due to a toe injury. At the time of recording, I don't know the status of that. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan's going to come out with something here pretty soon. But he did have an 82.6 defensive grade, which is a game-high grade, and that is coming off the 91.3 grade he had against Dallas the week before. So he stacked a really great performance off a really great performance. So this is a guy that's getting it done with playing corner. And how about that? You're missing Mooney Ward, and prayers continue to go up for Mooney Ward and his family. And you just roll with De'Amara Lenore and Renardo Green, and you know you're going to get consistency. You put in Isaac Yedem, and then once you've seen Renardo Green go out, then it was Rock Yassin that came in and played pretty well. So 49ers are definitely stockpiled with talent at the cornerback position, which is really good. And they just signed Nick McLeod to the practice squad. He comes over from the Giants, so more depth, probably special teams help there as well. We'll see what happens. We just had a special teams gaff from Darrell Luter Jr., a cornerback, and with you got to play other guys. Renardo Green used to be a gunner. When you've got to play other guys as starters now, and Renardo Green's earned that, it does impact your special teams. So we'll see what happens with McLeod. But Green allowed 4 catches for 27 yards on 5 targets. He did break up 2 passes and allowed a passer rating of 89.2 when targeted. His coverage grade is 83.9, was also the highest in the game. So Renardo Green did give up some catches, but he limited the effectiveness of those catches. He did not get beat vertically. He was able to recover on that one near the end zone and able to make a play there. So Renardo Green continues to illustrate why the 49ers selected him in the second round of this current draft and why they feel like moving forward, if they can bring back a guy like De'Amara Lenore, they're feeling pretty comfortable at the cornerback position. Good stuff for the 49ers, but it will be a wait and see on the health of Renardo Green and whether he's going to be able to play moving forward. If they're without Renardo Green and without Mooney Ward against Seattle, that could make it a little bit more difficult. That's for sure. Now let's talk about a player that's new to the 49ers, but not new in this league, and that's Malik Collins. And I got stock up Malik Collins. I've been a huge fan of him the entire season, but now it's starting to show up on the stat line. As you see that in this game, he had 4 pressures and 1 sack. So he now has 4 sacks on the season from interior defensive line. Fantastic, right? You're losing Eric Armstead. You're losing Javon Hargrave. What are you going to get from the defensive line? And the sack numbers haven't really been that big for the 49ers. But in this game, with Tampa Bay getting rid of the football, how were you going to be able to get to Baker Mayfield? He was getting rid of the ball so quick. It was boom, boom. Malik Collins still found a way. Leonard Floyd gets there, causes him to step up. We talk about this every week. When you have pass rush off the edge, you have to have an internal push. So that way when they step up, they step into a defensive player. That's how you collapse the pocket. And Malik Collins did that. And so now he has 4 sacks this season. He only had 5 all of last season. So he's nearly eclipsed his mark last year they had for the Houston Texans. And how about this? Tom Lynch got Malik Collins for a 7th round pick. That is fantastic for the 49ers. And Malik Collins has been playing well against the run. He's been battling against the pass. He is the most consistent interior defensive line for the 49ers, and it isn't close. And this defensive line could have fell apart once they lost Javon Hargrave. They did not, and Malik Collins is the big reason why. And we know that they've been looking for more tackle depth, but they don't need a starter when it comes to Malik Collins. Now, Jordan Elliott on the other side, it's hit and miss. It's feast and famine. He's going to need to get more consistent, but I'm sure he will. Now, let's talk about another interior defensive lineman, and that's Kalia Davis. And the first preseason game, Kalia Davis was phenomenal. He was flashing on film. He had everyone excited. And then he had a knee injury, and he had to have surgery. And so the 49ers put him on IR, but they set him up to come back, and he did come back. But since then, he hasn't looked like the Kalia Davis we saw in preseason. He had lost juice. He wasn't as good of a penetrator. He wasn't as active. He wasn't making things happen. Well, guess what? We saw a glimpse of that Kalia Davis in this game. So I don't know what lit a fire under him. I don't know if it's just him finally rounding into form, practicing again and getting work. If it was the bye week, maybe he just needed another week to get himself back in order with a little bit of extra work. Or if it was the fact they traded for Khalil Davis during the week. I think that was a huge motivation for some of these interior guys and some of these interior defensive linemen. And I think Kalia Davis is a big reason why he had a big game. Defensive tackle Kalia Davis led the team in run defense with a 76.4 grade. How about that? So this guy comes in and he makes an impact helping stop the run. He was also the first one to Baker Mayfield when Mayfield had the fumbled snap. I seen him getting penetration in the backfield. It was a good performance from Kalia Davis. It's not perfect. Still has times where he gets pushed off his spot, a lot like a lot of the 49ers defensive tackles. But you win in this game, again, without Kevin Givens. And they've been without Kevin Givens now for a few weeks. And these young guys had to step up. And we needed one of these guys to make a big-time play. And Kalia Davis made some plays in this game. So huge fan of what he did in this game. Now, can he capitalize on it? Did he do enough as well? 49ers going to have some roster decisions to make. They're going to be bringing some guys back. Did Kalia Davis do enough to stay on this roster? May have. He flashed in this one, so it was a good game for Kalia Davis. Now let's talk about Malik Mustafa. Once again, Malik Mustafa continues to be good, and it was funny that the talk all week was about the calf, whether he was going to be able to play. And he kind of put on Twitter like, hey, it's not that bad. It's not that big of a deal. And I still think people saw the signing of Tashaun Gibson, the elevation of Tashaun Gibson, to mean Malik was not going to play in this game. But not only did he play, but he was the best tackler for the 49ers in this football game. That is exactly what you need from the safety position. And he did a really good job. Malik Mustafa came out there and played really, really well. I was a huge fan of his performance in this game, and he keeps stacking good games. And once again, that conversation of if they bring Talanoa Hufanga back, who is going to start next to him, Jair or Malik Mustafa? Well, Mustafa's making it difficult for that conversation to be Jair and Talanoa. I'll tell you that much, because Malik is playing so good. They didn't even target him in this football game, just didn't even take a chance at going his direction. Absolutely great from him. Now, another one that I want to talk about, because he gets criticized so much, and a lot of it is deserved, and then some of it has just been piling on a little bit, and that's Devondre Campbell. Devondre Campbell had some flash plays in this game, including a huge stop on a screen pass. They thought they were going to dial it up down near the red zone, and Devondre Campbell came flying up, made a huge tackle in the backfield for a loss, and it ended up forcing a Tampa Bay field goal. A huge play for Devondre Campbell. You're talking about Campbell having 7 tackles in this game, which tied him for second with Deommodore Lenoir, who had 7, and Malik Mustafa, who had 7. But Devondre Campbell had 4 solo tackles, including that 1 tackle for loss on the screenplay. It was a phenomenal play. And so I think that you look at what's going on with Devondre Campbell, he's definitely played better over the last couple weeks. Of course, I never thought it was as bad as people thought. There were moments, of course, missed tackles and things like that, but I thought it was kind of amplified by the fact that he looks slow sometimes. So Devondre Campbell coming out there and playing well next to Fred Warner, and the 49ers needed that. They need that consistency from linebacker right now because they don't have Dre Greenlaw. Once Dre Greenlaw comes back, this linebacker crew is going to be really, really dominant. But it gives Dre a little bit more time to get right, to get healthy, and then they can possibly bring him back over the next few weeks. Some of the targets for when he's going to come back: Buffalo, end of November, maybe the game against Chicago at home. Those are kind of the games in the first part of December where you're looking at Dre Greenlaw possibly coming back. But for the 49ers, it was a good football game overall. They were able to get some stuff done, which is hugely important. And just, going over some of the PFF grades, if you guys were wondering, a couple of them. Pooney, I talked about, he was number 1. George Kittle had an 82.9 grade in his 57 snaps, continues to be the best tight end in football. Jawan Jennings had a 77.8 grade. Christian McCaffrey in his return, and we didn't talk about him a whole lot because I didn't think it was really stock up for him, but he did his thing, what he needed to do, getting the catches, getting the yards on the ground. But he had a 70.2 grade in his 56 snaps, including so good in pass protection. He was the leading pass protection guy on the entire team. I don't think I brought that up. How about that? And we saw a huge sack in this game where Brock got hit from the backside. And once again, it was because of the young guy And, you can't have guys like Isaac Rendo missing those blocks. Well, Christian McCaffrey doesn't miss those blocks. Now, on defense, you had Renardo Green, Kalia Davis. Those were your two highest defensive graded players. Kalia Davis had a 75.5. Now, he only played 11 snaps. So remember that. He needs to play more to have a bigger impact, but that's kind of been the number they've expected from him so far. Malik, 70.3 grade. Fred, 69 grade, and Jair Brown, 67. So good to see the two young safeties up in the mix for that position. So it was a really good game for some of these guys that stepped up and made plays, especially the young guys. And now they've got to go build on it. But we got stock up 49ers, and let's see if they can build that. Renardo Green, 2 games in a row. You're getting some young guys stepping up. It's going to be fun. Can Ricky Pearsall take even another step? Can Brock Purdy take another step? I think they can. It's going to be a lot of fun. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode was brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.